Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems, and with me is Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute.
When was the last time you failed? When I was asked that question by my first sales manager, they followed with, if it wasn't recently, you're not trying hard enough. What is failure? How does it affect us? And how can we manage the remorse and regret? Stay tuned as Bill and I discuss failure along with the statement, whatever you do, don't screw this up, and other great ideas on episode 493 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
So we're going to start off with our book club, but I'm wondering, Scott, whatever you do, don't screw this up. Was that directed toward me?
No, that was, I got that out of the movie. I don't know, it was Ocean's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, one of them. Movie. It was Brad Pitt was talking to Matt Damon and says, under any circumstances, never do that. There's a knock at the door. And then he goes and answers the door. Matt Damon's kind of standing there going, wait a minute. You're missing the punchline. What do you mean? Don't screw up, And I was wondering, what was he going to say? What am I missing? And I think we constantly deal with failure and not understanding expectations. And sometimes we end up walking on eggshells and we don't know what we don't know. So we live with this uncertainty. Anyway, I digress. We'll get on with the book.
Well, that's good. That's good. We'll talk about failure, but right now we're going to talk about fighting and the book Sales Jiu-Jitsu, Part 2, Fighting, the final chapter in this, Positioning, Chapter 6. And from the book, positioning is the highest form of leverage. From a good position, things are easy. From a bad position, things are hard. Grasshopper.
Yeah. It reminds me of a Les Brown statement. If you do what's easy, life will be hard. If you do what's hard, life will be easy.
That's right. So the positioning is, how do I set up? Am I setting up the sale for success, or am I missing things? And therefore, I'm going to be going from a weak position and I'm going to encourage failure. So positioning is important. As we talked about, each of these sections has 3 pieces to them. The first one is secure your position. So we're talking about the selling gap, and we have to understand what that gap is, what the need is. And I think, and they don't talk about this as much as I'd like, I think you need to enlarge the gap. That's our goal as a salesperson. They're going to give us a selling gap early.
Right.
And if we go, let me sell to that, I'm going to get a minor sale. But if I can enlarge that and build on it and find out what the real core problem is, then I'm trying to really enlarge that gap. So then, can my product or service close that gap? Do I have a unique value position, a unique solution? And then if I do, I want to secure that position by helping the prospect see the value. So, and one warning, this is a warning to all consultants. Don't give them the solution, sell them that you can get them the solution. And I think I did that early. I told people what their problem was and then how to fix it right in the first meeting. So
yeah, very common. We spend a lot of time on product knowledge. We spend a lot of time on learning and studying and practicing solutions. And then the first opportunity that we have to deliver it, we do it. Boom.
Right.
And there we go. Another thing in this section, and I thought it was really important. The author said, you do this first by securing the position that you've earned. So we all earn a progress in the sales process when we're talking to a prospect. I think when we start a call and we ask for permission to, for some time, grants, are you in the middle of something? It's now a bad time. I love that question. And that's kind of a permission to proceed. So no, I'm not. Go ahead. What do you got? And now you can start asking questions. So you've earned that position. You start asking some more follow-up questions and you start earning that position. And you have to be able to progress and earn the progress based on the questions and the information that you gather.
Absolutely.
And another thing I said is then when you improve your position with the ultimate goal of setting you up to win. And that is that's the goal when you're securing a position. So I like it when they talk about putting the spotlight on the truth is ultimately giving you a secure position when you're talking about the problem that they have, and then listening. And I think another important step is to listen for the impact of the problem.
Yeah.
Because the impact of the problem is going to be emotion and motivation to make a change, to buy your solution.
One of the things I want to also stress on this secure your position, and this is starting to get into the proposal, right? It's starting to get into here's my solution. And we talked about this last week. I'm going to reemphasize it. Save your solution. Don't
Right.
drop your solution in their lap in the first 5 minutes because you've devalued your solution. You've said, this is your problem is so easy. I can figure it out in 15 minutes. And I've got a solution that I just pulled off the shelf here that I give to everybody. And here we go. And so now your solution is worth 15 minutes. It's not worth time. So say, look at the, close the first meeting by saying, boy, this is a great issue. I think we've really delved into this. I want to talk to some of the other people at my organization and bring back some ideas that we can then play with. And boy, does that give your solution some power and some value.
Yeah, very true.
So the second step in this is improve your position. And so they're going to clarify with more questions. They're going to bring questions back to you. Don't let their questioning get out of hand and get into too many different areas. And then also you're trying to make sure all the decision makers and influencers are going to be on board with it. So make sure that those people are included as well. So continue to improve your position by clarifying it and expanding the number of people that are going to know about it.
And they really stress maintaining control of the conversation. That's how you improve your position, is to start with, thinking about the process of solving can be painful, period, and can bring up vulnerability. So we need to be able to make our prospects feel comfortable sharing information.
Yep.
We need to validate them and let them know that that's not uncommon, that you've worked with other companies in similar position before. And if they ask you, what are some of the challenges that you see with this? Say, the challenge is based on some of my past experiences that I've had, and not wanting to assume that those solutions are going to be most applicable in this situation. I need to be able to ask more questions about your situation so that I can be able to give you the best solution possible for what you're encountering, and not always assume that the past performance of other companies is what you need here, because it's not true.
The examples are some form of evidence saying I can really do what you're asking me to do. But we don't want to bring those in too early as a solution. It's just evidence that we've dealt with similar problems before, but yours is unique. And I think people really want their system, I think people really want their problem to feel unique. So don't put on an air that, oh yeah, we've seen this 1,000 times. You're just another one in a long line. They want a uniqueness to the problem.
Yeah. And that's perceived value. I mean, I think that we need to be able to deliver value based on the specific problem and the specific prospect that we're working with.
Yep. Okay, the final piece on this, the third step, set up your win. And what he says is one of the biggest enemies of a sale is a non-decision. And I think that's, it's not the no. Most people won't give you a no. They just give you a non-decision. We're going to wait. Right. We're going to talk about it. We got to wait for the budget cycle. All questions, by the way, you should have asked before. I want to think about it. And what those tell you is that there's not enough concern about the lack of action. And Scott, you have a euphemism for
our greatest competition is, COI, cost of inaction.
Cost of inaction. And that's really what we need to think about. What is the cost of doing nothing, waiting, thinking? Is this problem going to go away on its own, or is it just going to get worse and more expensive to solve?
Yeah. And it's really important. And they talk this about this step in this process really importantly in this section of the chapter, is once the right people are in the room, start to recap and understand the problem using their language that the prospect has already agreed to, and ask them what will happen if they don't solve the problem. Now, that's a bit of a direct question, so we need to think about that as the intent, rephrase it into, I'm kind of curious, like Bill said, is this going to go away on its own, or is this something that we have to do something about? And if we don't do anything, what do you envision happening? So now we've got the impact of inaction, and then you start talking about the solution that stick to a problem. And they bring out a really good point in this section. It says, if you reverse it and you start to talk about the cost of inaction before you present the solution, it will feel as though you're manipulating them. So make sure that we talk about what happens if they don't do it, and then talk about the solution, because if we get that reversed, we may be presenting it in a way that they feel like they're being manipulated, hustled, and shaken down, which is the number one fear of prospects, is losing control. So they talk about maintaining control. They talk about really finding out the problems, making sure the prospect understands the problems. If the prospect doesn't understand a problem, you as a salesperson have a problem, because they're not willing to fix or change it, and they don't see it as an issue. So that means that your solution has no value.
Yeah, excellent point. This is an important chapter. Often I get asked, what happens when my sale just kind of dies on the vine? These are the steps that will help your sale not die through inaction. So if you read this, read it again. If you skipped it, go back and study this chapter, these 3 points, because I think they're very important.
We want to remind you about the book giveaway. So the Sales Jiu-Jitsu by Elliot Bayev and Daniel Moskowitz. We got 2 books each week. Go to winningatselling.com. Ask a question, fill out a form. It's real easy. Just fill out the form, check the box. Boom, you're in the book drawing. So we're grateful that we've got 2 people that we pulled out of the hat, David Rott and Linda Ruland.
Excellent. We'll reach out and get those addresses and send it away. This segment is being brought to you by The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Get in the Door by Steve Kloida.
I'm Ron Lehman, and I want to tell you about one of the best sales books I've ever read. The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Get in the Door, gives you the tools and techniques to fill your pipeline and achieve more sales success. The author is Steve Kloida, known as the prospecting expert, and this book proves it. So if you want to learn from the master, get The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Get in the Door. It's available at theprospectingexpert.com. Just click on the Buy Book button.
And as we open the show today, we're going to be working with dealing with failure. Did we fail? We failed, but we are not a failure. We need to keep that in mind. We play different roles and we have different identities. And in the roles that we play, we will miss the mark. We will not deliver on all the expectations that people have of us or that we have of ourselves. And we need to look at the situation as we didn't meet the goal, we failed, we learned, but we are not personally a failure as it comes to our identity. And the reason I really want to stress that is that we will never outperform a negative self-image. If we feel like we're performing or we feeling like a 5, we're going to perform at a 5. If we feel like we're a 10, we're going to perform at a 10. We can never outperform our negative self-image. And this is why it's so important to put the perspective of failure is just feedback. And mistakes are proof that we're trying and that we're doing something new. Because if we're not doing something new, we're living the same day over and over again. And like I said in the opening, if you didn't fail recently, you're not trying hard enough. Yeah. I mean, we fail every single day, just like we negotiate every single day. And sometimes our negotiations don't give us the results and we might consider that a failure. And there are some negotiations that we end up winning because we probably learned a lesson because of failure. So failure is really the essence of learning something new in real time that's relevant to us.
Yeah, I think it's a daunting topic because it deals so much with our emotions. I do believe that we're taught through the school system not to fail. Yeah. Anything we do wrong, we're either punished or judged for. So our tests come back with a -5 at the top, not plus 95.
Right. Yeah.
And theory through the school system is figure out those 5 that you missed and you'll be perfect. And that's what we're shooting for, is perfection. And yet the real world is failure is a large part of success. One of my favorite books is Failing Forward by John Maxwell.
Yeah.
Important book. If you want to learn about how to make failure your friend and do some study on that, Failing Forward by John Maxwell. We should add that to our list, perhaps.
Yeah.
But don't get caught up in the failure or success of each interaction. This is where you make a mistake. Each dial that you make, each conversation that you have, each meeting that you have, each proposal, you're going to fail at those. You're going to have dials where people don't answer. You're going to have conversations where they don't make an appointment. And you can't get on an emotional roller coaster. Here's what I learned. You want to meet with me? Great. You never want me to call again? Got it. Same reaction. Get through the numbers. I don't care. I'm never going to see you again. I'm never going to talk to you again if you shut me down. I don't care. I'm moving on. And I have a lot of people out there that I can talk to. I'm going to call until I find somebody who wants to talk to me. I'm going to talk to people until I find somebody who wants to listen. And then I'm going to listen to them until we have an opportunity to work together. And that's the greatest feeling of all, is closing that deal. So don't think of each section, dial, call, conversation, appointment, proposal as something that's going to make or break you, because it's not. It's just one more in a line. Keep your emotions straight.
Yeah, I think we need to detach somewhat from the outcome. And I know that many other salespeople have heard that term before. I always kind of struggle with that because I always want to maintain a commitment to the outcome. And I want to be attentive during the entire process and look for opportunities to be able to save it if I see it going south. My response or mindset is I don't mind, because I always care. And when I talk to a prospect that is maybe not going with the flow in the direction that we're going, I say, I don't mind if you just, decide not to, go in this direction, or you decide to work with somebody else, or you decide not to work with me. I just want you to know that I really care about the situation and the experience that you're going through. But if you don't think that I'm the best fit and you want to go with someplace else, right, that's perfectly fine.
Well, and sometimes that's why you get a proposal stuck.
Right.
One of the tools I use when a proposal is stuck is I might say, Scott, it sounds like you want to tell me no, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
And if they say, well, no, I don't want to, well, Scott, then the only other option is yes. So let's figure out what we need to do to get to yes. If they say, yeah, I really have one to tell you, hey, that's great. Get it off my mind. Get it off the books. Now, this isn't my first close.
Right.
It's when this thing's been sitting around starting to get stinky. But it is a way to let them off the hook. And if they want to tell you no, then let's move to a no. And it's not going to hurt my feelings. It's just going to move us on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great line. And I think that it pressures people to make a decision. As long as they don't have to make a decision, they feel safe. When you ask them, you got to make a decision, yes or no, which means you have to give up this solution. You have to say no to this solution, and you have to say no to solving the problem that we've identified. And you see enough value in this proposal that you do not want to say no to, but you're not committed enough to it to say yes. So if I pressure you to say no and you have to give it up, it's going to increase your commitment on holding on to it and retaining it and saying yes.
Yep. The fear of loss.
Oh, it's so powerful. Loss aversion, so powerful.
Yep. And so what are some of the tools you use to help get through those times of rejection or where you feel you failed?
Well, first,
we run into them.
Yeah. And I find that when I fail, it is really due to the lack of understanding expectations and the lack of preparation. I think if we concentrate on creating clear expectations, we've got a greater chance of achieving them. The only way to disappoint somebody is to not meet their expectations. If we're committed to a particular event and activity, and we spend a lot of time preparing for it with clear expectations, we've got a greater chance of success when we prepare. It's when we wing it, or we're caught off guard, or we're assumptive, or we just think that we understand it, when reality, this situation is completely different. We prejudged it. Sometimes we can go into a situation, we go, oh, this is a slam dunk. I've done this before 100 times. I know the person. I know the guy. I got a referral in. This is no problem at all. I can have a cocktail before I go in and do the presentation. And that's not true. And you end up paying for it later because you were a little judgmental. You didn't prepare for it. And all of a sudden, reality hits you in the face.
Yeah, I think it's important to know, and my resource for this one is a video I did called By the Numbers. I think you focus on the things that you need to do, and you know what your numbers are. I have to make X number of calls to get X number of contacts, to get X number of appointments, and whatever it is that process is for you. And if you're not doing that, and you get a call, and you do one call, and you get an appointment from it, and you think, okay, that's my day. You're never going to catch up on the days where you made 20 calls and you got no appointments. So work the numbers every day and get things in the hopper, get that funnel filled up, because I think what too many salespeople do is they get a couple of deals going and they stop doing all the work to get the next deal going. They're living off one or two deals that look like they're going to be big. And then when those happen, they're very disappointed and they got nothing else going on.
Yeah. I think failure is a conceptual issue, something that we deal with in our head, and we need to start by forgiving ourselves before we can really deal with the recovery of failure and forgive others. I think it's a lot easier maybe for us to forgive others than it is to forgive ourselves, because we do live with that remorse.
We're hard on
that
ourselves.
Regret. Yeah. So we really live in three time zones. We live with regret from the past, and we live with anxiety in the future, and we need to just concentrate on today and what we can do today. So if we know the expectations, we prepare for the experiences and the events, then we're going to have a greater chance of delivering the outcome that we want. And with that, then we should not feel like we're we're regretful or remorseful of the outcome, it's we may get a no. Okay, well, you know what? We did everything we possibly could, and it wasn't a fit for us. And guess what? They said no, so that gives us a chance for somebody else to say yes. So now we've got some opportunities in the future to be able to spend time working with somebody that's a better fit, a perfect fit. Maybe somebody that's willing to spend more money or make a bigger commitment to us. So we need to also look at the optimism of an outcome. And optimism really has two definitions. It's being hopeful before a decision is made, and then dwelling on the most positive aspects after a decision is made. Yep. And we can concentrate on both of those and be optimistic. And failure can be an exercise in optimism.
Well, and failure is an exercise in growth. Right?
True.
Am I learning, or am I just losing? And if I don't learn anything through the failure, if I don't get more skilled, then I'm wasting a failure. So don't waste your failures. I'll tell a little story here. I'm a big baseball fan, and you've probably all heard the Babe Ruth example. Babe Ruth hit 714 home runs in his career, and he struck out 1,330 times. So he failed almost twice as much as he achieved his goal of hitting a home run. But I think Hank Aaron is a better example. He hit 755 home runs. He struck out 1,383 times, but he walked 1,400 times. Wow. And he got over 3,000 hits despite his home runs. So if you don't include his home runs, he still got 3,000 hits, which is a Hall of Fame number. But on April 13th, 1954, he made his major league debut and was hitless in 5 at-bats.
Wow.
So the man that would become one of the best hitters of all times without steroids failed totally his first time in the major leagues.
Wow.
And so don't let that first failure keep you from learning. Learn what you need to know, and then maybe you'll be that greatest salesperson of all time because you learned from each failure that you had.
Yeah. Great story. I think one of Babe Ruth's best years is when he stole the most bases too. He was very aggressive.
That was before his big days.
Right. I think he used to sharpen up his cleats too, and nobody wanted to get in front of him as he was sliding in.
Actually,
Ty Cobb, okay.
I think what Babe Ruth used to do was he used to go in head first. Okay. He was a big man. He'd go in head first into the second baseman. And finally, one of the second basemen kind of did a sidestep on it and whacked him in the back of the head as he was going by with the glove. And he just kept running into the outfield and finally fell over. And that was the last time he tried to headbutt somebody.
That's a great story. I got one that I'll close with too.
Okay.
And I was working with a salesperson. We were talking about last year's numbers, and we kind of fell a little short. And the salesperson says to me, one of the issues that I dealt with was the supply chain and, back orders and stuff like that. And I looked at him and I said, when I walked through the warehouse this morning, it's still full. We still got stuff. Sell the stuff we have. Okay. Don't talk to me about back orders and supply chain. We can look at every one of those items on the shelves in the warehouse, and we can look up who bought that item last and call that company and say, hey, you need another one? Because we got them for you right now today. So don't concentrate on what we don't have, because salespeople are like, I could sell a lot more of the supply chain. I could sell a lot more if we offered this.
If it was cheaper, if the price were lower, I could sell a lot more too.
Yeah.
So
that's another show. But
excellent.
I just, dealing with failure is like, let's try something new and deal with failure as an opportunity of what do we got to lose? What's the worst case scenario? And in most cases, I think of failing as salespeople making cold calls. Nobody died making cold calls. I mean, there's no annihilation in cold calling. So call.
It's all emotional
conversations. Yeah, it really, really is. So that's why I say failure is a conceptual barrier in dealing with that. So great topic, Bill. Thanks.
Yeah, great.
So I got a resource for our listeners. I wrote a book. I don't talk about my book enough. I really should talk about my book more. Taking Off Into the Wind. You can go to the website.
I have a signed copy.
Yeah. winningandselling.com. And then just click on the book tab and you'll be able to see a copy of the book. You can order the printed copy on the website, or you can order the Kindle version online. Chapter 16, page 43, failure puts you one step closer to accomplishment. And I'll include a blog. All of the chapters in the book are blogs written on my my website. Excellent. So if you go to mnsales.com, you can have access to all of those. So I'll include a link. And you got one too?
Yeah, I've got one of my 2-minute selling tip videos, number 27, by the numbers, and we'll link to that.
Fabulous.
So as we wrap up, we have a golden nugget. It all deals with failure, right? If you don't
Mm.
try at anything, you can't fail. It takes backbone to lead the life you want, by Richard
Very true.
Yates. So
Richard Yates. That's a familiar name.
you can't fail if you don't try. So
Exactly. That's one of the things that I mentioned in my book is you try, you fail, you learn, you accomplish. You're never really wrong. It just you say to yourself, if I had a chance to do it over again, what would I do different? And those are great mantras to have, but great golden nugget.
Yeah, if you want to learn about failure, read about anybody who's succeeded.
Yeah,
and they'll tell you about failure. But don't read anything from the school system, because you got to be perfect in the school system.
Save it for group, Bill.
I hate our school system. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Okay.
Right from grade school to college.
Write your letters to winningatselling.com.
All right.
Welcome your feedback. So don't forget about our book giveaway, winningatselling.com. Enter the form, type it up, and press send.
We got a ton more books to give away. We got a lot of chapters left, so enter that. Next week on the book club, Sales Jiu-Jitsu again, part 3. We're moving on to winning. Chapter 7, submit, finish the fight. And then our topic is going to be some fun with predictions, resolutions, and the year ahead. Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.